Okay, Rabbi, so we're on our way back from the Kosel. We went very, very early. Thank you so much, Rabbi Freedman, for inviting me and taking me along. It was almost a pleasure and a privilege.
Thanks for coming.
Tell us about Blimie.
Blimie. Okay, so Blimie is our daughter, foster daughter, really, who has Down syndrome. And there's a whole story behind this. So maybe we'll tell the story in like different parts. But we'll start by going all the way back. We'll go back it's probably about 10 years at this point, 9 or 10 years, where our eldest daughter was trying to find something to do for the summer. She was trying to figure out what she should do. There's an organization in Rabbi Eliav, an incredible organization. It's called the Zechus, like helping our brothers. They do chesed in many, many different ways. One of the things that they do is they have lots of programs for kids with special needs, Down syndrome, autism, etc., all sorts of different things. And one of their main things for a long time was having a camp in the summer for 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember exactly. Where they'd have every kid with special needs was paired up with a volunteer, with a girl who was volunteering and would be with that kid. And my daughter was looking for something to do. My wife saw an ad for this camp, and she said to my daughter, like, maybe do this, maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe it will be good. And my daughter did in fact do that. She went back the next summer, and the next summer would eventually be offered a job. And she actually still today, 9 or 10 years later, is still working for Zechus, running one of their programs for kids with special needs that they come every day after school, and she runs that program. And because of that daughter's involvement also, our second daughter volunteered for a while in their Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov program, also a little bit on Shabbos. The kids said this became a big thing, and we started often hosting kids for Shabbos and for Yom Tovim. There's one girl in particular that my daughter ended up, a girl who has both Down syndrome and another thing called Turner syndrome. It's a very unusual combination, very low functioning, and her mother got very sick. My daughter started going every Shabbos morning to watch this girl so her father can go to shul. Then the mother unfortunately passed away, and my daughter was like very, very involved. So these kids, she was by us for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this young lady, a number of times. We started having these kids over a lot, and it became very much a part of our life. I would say that let's call that chapter 1. So we started having kids different times. A family moves into the building next door to us. Actually, they used to be neighbors of Rabbi Deutsch. They're named the Seagulls. And the Seagulls, amazing people. They had lived up north, and they had one child, and then decided that they wanted to foster a kid with special needs, and they became foster parents to a young man with Down syndrome, his name is Eli. Now, that's how we knew him to be. They then moved to Rabbi Eliav, to the building right next to our building, which is where Rabbi Deutsch lives. And
Mr. Deutsch.
Mr. Deutsch.
Thinker, yeah.
Rabbi Eliav.
No, Rabbi Eliav's fine.
Rabbi Eliav is also, okay, fine. Rabbi Eliav is fine. And when they moved in, a neighbor of ours in our building knows Mr. Siegel for many years. He said, listen, if you need any help with Eli, speak to the Friedmans. Like, they have a lot of experience with stuff. Okay. Eli started coming to our house every Shabbos afternoon. Every single Shabbos afternoon, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 3 hours, sometimes for 4 hours. He's like with us a lot. At one point, the Seagulls needed to go on a trip for whatever reason. They couldn't take Eli, and he actually stayed with us for 2.5 weeks over Pesach. And at that time, our daughter got engaged. And my wife was 100% convinced that it was this close to Eli being in our house that everything went so smooth. He was the first boy she dated. They dated for 3 weeks. It was mamish, boom, boom, boom. On Chavayit, they got engaged. And my wife attributed it to this close of having Eli in our house. That's why things went so smoothly. That's why things went so amazing. And I don't argue with my wife when it comes to these things. There's another time Eli's mother was going to have another baby, and he was by us from a couple of days before Yom Kippur until after Zechus. He spent a lot of time in our house. Our kids were really getting an amazing experience of being around these special neshamas, being around kids who were known to have special needs. And we hosted lots of different kids. We got to know also like different types of special needs. So the kids, know the difference between someone with Down syndrome and someone with autism, someone who has a general, slow development, call it retardation, even though a lot of people don't like those words nowadays. So we really got a sense of what were the kids that we were more comfortable with, the kids that we were less comfortable with, and we saw how amazing it was for us, for me, for my wife, for our kids to have these kids around. And it was just a tremendous thing, and we really love them. These kids, there's something so incredibly special about them, and we really enjoy having them around. It's
chapter 2.
It's chapter 2. Starting chapter 3 in a tunnel. Oh, now we left the tunnel.
The light at the end of the tunnel. It's raining out, happens today.
Yeah, people think I'm Ashkenazi because I am, but I'm also.
You have some Middle Eastern?
Not in my blood, but in my soul.
In your soul. That's why we joined the Sephardi minyan at the Kosel.
We did. It was a regular Ashkenazi minyan I can get to Shemesh. I wanted something different.
There we go.
Very good. The kids are chapter 3. At some point, again, our eldest daughter is working with kids with special needs, running a whole program for them. Really amazing, and she's got a few co-workers there. Now there is one of the things people don't realize in Eretz Yisrael, there's different underground secret societies that really make a lot of things go. One of the underground secret societies that very few people know about is the Society of Hasidic Women, who will find out about a child with special needs that needs a home and find a home for them. It's a fascinating thing. And at one point, one of these women works with our daughter, and she asked her, I know that your parents often host kids. Do you think your parents would take a kid? Would they actually bring such a child into their home? And my daughter starts laughing. She's like, I don't know. Ask my mother. So she did it right away, but then at some point she called us up, and she said there's a boy that was born with Down syndrome, blah 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 blah. Would you guys be interested in possibly taking him, like fostering him, like he'll be your child? And we're like, what? And before we could even really think about it, the child, they had asked a different family first, a family that already has a foster child with Down syndrome and their own child with Down syndrome. Very special family. And they had asked them, and originally they had said no, and then that family said yes. So okay, like the offer was withdrawn. Okay, a couple of months later, that family that had taken this child, was making a chasana, and they had lived in Beit Shemesh for many years. And then the first daughter got married and moved to Afula. She told her parents, "It's beautiful here. It's a wonderful community. Come move to Afula. You can sell your apartment in Beit Shemesh and be able to buy something in Afula and have money left over to make your next 5 chasanas." So in fact, that's what they did. They moved to Afula, but then they were making a chasana a short while later, and they made the chasana in Beit Shemesh. And now they have this new child with Down syndrome, and they don't want the whole chasana because we about this new kid that most people in Beit Shemesh didn't know about. So they looked for someone to watch him just for that day, for like the afternoon until the end of the chasana. Child's name is Moshe. And it got to our second daughter. Talia, would you watch? She said yes. And this kid Moshe was in our house for the afternoon. And all of my kids are melting. It's a delicious, delicious kid. Just delicious. No other word for it. He's like, at that point, I don't know, 9 months old, maybe a year old, very flaccid, very whatever, but mamish, delicious. And all our kids said the same thing. They robbed us. He could have been ours. They robbed us. That's chapter 3. Okay. Chapter 4 basically goes as follows. Okay, so we didn't get Moshe, he went to a different family. And then a short while later, at the beginning of Elul, 3.5 years ago, we get a phone call from this woman, Chani. She calls up my wife and she says, a baby was just born 2 weeks old. 2 weeks ago, a baby was born in Yerushalayim to a family. She has Down syndrome. She's completely healthy. Very often children with Down syndrome have health issues, in particular issues with their heart. She's healthy, she's fine, she's great. For whatever reason, the family, whatever exactly the cheshbonos are, would you be willing to take this child? So this is the phone call that my wife gets. Now, she gets this phone call as I'm learning with my son, I learn with on the phone every morning, very, very close friend. And we learned, it's a program called Daf HaShavua, we learn a Daf a week. So when you learn Daf Yomi, you get to make a lot of siyum. When you learn Daf HaShavua, so when we learned Tainis and Megillah and Meikat and Chagiga, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But then you get the Ksubis. And Ksubis was a more than 2-year project. So, I'm sorry, first Yevamis. Yevamis comes first. So it's more than a 2-year project. And we're almost at the end. So my Chavrusa and I are discussing the siyum that we're going to make. I get off the phone with him. We did our learning for that day. We had this conversation. I get off the phone. I walk out of my office and say to my wife, there's something we need to talk about. She's like, there's something we need to talk about. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, do we want to take a 2-week-old baby girl with Down syndrome?
Incredible.
I'm like, honey, that's not fair. My thing would be shorter. I just want to talk about a siyum. She tells me about the conversation she had with Chani, this woman. We're like, our heads are spinning. I said, I gotta go speak to the Rav. Zechus have a close relationship with a very, very, very special tzaddik whose name is David. He's a Rav in Rabbi Shemesh. One of the worst kept secrets. Like, if you're in Rabbi Shemesh and you speak Hebrew, you have to know about David. A lot of people have about him, but he's their other Rav. He's my Rav. I don't do anything important without discussing it with him. I called him up. I said, I'm really sorry. I need to come speak to the Rav. Can I come? It was already like the time of the day. He's like, I said, please, it's very important. He said, okay. I run over to his house. He lives a few minutes away by foot. Run over to his house, and I tell him this is what we were asked. We sat together for 45 minutes, and all he really did was tell me, just bring up everything that we need to think about. You need to think about this, and you need to think about this, and you need to think about this, and you need to think about this, right? It's going to change the dynamic of your family. But he also muttered a few things under his breath, something about the shamas and things that he obviously did not want me to hear, and that I didn't understand, but I understood that there was something meaningful going on here. Okay, and that's what we're thinking about. And he left me. He gave me a bracha that we should have das. And that we should make the right decision, and he sent me on my way. Ad kan perek dalet. Chapter number 5. I go back, I tell my wife what the Rav said, and we start having this conversation. Now I can tell you that it was a Monday that this happened, that we got this phone call. The reason I know it was a Monday is because Monday is the day of the week that I go in. I work in Yerushalayim. Most days of the week I work. I'm a clinical social worker. I see clients in.
Not Stam.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
I see clients in Rabbi Shemesh. On Mondays I have an office that I rent in Harnof, and I see people there. So I know it was a Monday because I remember I then went into Harnof. And this is clanging in my head throughout the day, like, are we going to do this? Does this make sense? Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? Etc. Fine. At the end of my day, I get in the car, and as I always do when I get in the car to head home, I call my wife. So she says to me, excuse me, sorry, just trying to deal with people who are changing lanes without signaling and getting in my way. My wife says to me, she's like, I got clarity. I was like, what do you mean? She went to the park. And you have to know, in Rabbi Shemesh, there's a place called the Chicken Park. There's no chickens there. It's an old Messiah why it's called that. There's a place called the Chicken Park. And this is where the women of Rabbi Shemesh don all important things in the universe. The universe, again, it's one of those other underground societies, if you will. My wife is there. And she's talking to a good friend of hers who happens to be a person with a very, very straight head. There's another woman in the park that my wife knows, but it really has almost nothing to do with. A woman very well known in the neighborhood. She ran a private gun for years. She and her husband didn't have children for years and years and years. They didn't have children. It's a tremendous thing. They tried lots of things. Finally, they went to a time Kanievsky. They ended up basically building a mikvah in a yeshuv that doesn't have one. We donated to that campaign. And after 20 years without children, they built this mikvah. Chaim had said, Chaim said, Zua Eitzah, like that's the move. And they had a baby girl after that. Amazing. My wife knows her, but it had nothing to do with her. She overheard my wife's conversation with her friend. So she overhears, she's like, excuse me for butting in. She's like, what are you guys talking about? And my wife said, the call would we possibly take this baby with them, whatever. And the woman was like, Zennes, you don't understand. For 10 years, I tried to become a foster parent to such a child. To get a child, even with special needs, who's healthy, like that's, like someone's offering this to you, like that's amazing. My wife's like, Baruch Hashem, we have 7 children. We have a very busy life. Like, why would we do this? So this woman, her name is Efrat Khoury, a very holy Jewish woman, looks at my wife and she says to her, I'll say it first in Hebrew, then I'll translate. We are in this world to grab mitzvahs. She's like, not everyone could do this and take such a child. But if you can, grab the opportunity. Ad Kan. Chapter 5. Chapter number 6 goes as follows. So my wife says, she's like, can we do this if we can do this? We then proceeded to sit down with each of our children in turn and have a conversation with them. We were asked about this child, Down syndrome, to the answer. We told them the whole story. What do you think about it? All the kids were in. Some of the kids were like, listen, I'm already older, I'm halfway out of the house, but like, yeah, why not? Some of the kids were like, yeah, for sure, it'll be amazing. Like, you understand that it means it's going to be a lot of work, and Mommy and Abba are going to be busy with, they can not get as much attention. Who cares? They're so delicious, they're so yummy, they're so amazing. Like, for sure, like, why wouldn't we do this? It would be great. This is what our kids said. Ashreinu Matok Chilkenu, that we were excited to have children that just were excited about this. I think it's, to me, this is the most beautiful part of the story, is that my kids, and don't go tell me it's with these parents, our children outpace us in almost every way. Mamish incredible. So that was the attitude. So we got back. My wife called Chani back and she said, listen, we'll do it. We'll be happy to do it. Okay? And then we didn't exactly hear back. It was a whole back and forth. But we went into Rosh Hashanah, like we had a conversation about this. Listen, we're going to Rosh Hashanah. My davening was as follows. We are willing to do this for you. We don't know what you want from us. We don't know what the right thing is. But we're willing to do this for you. Now the parents, it was a whole thing. They had taken her home. They had spoken to Big Doyle. What was the right thing? It was a very big decision for them. And the nicer they wanted to send to the right family. At one point they came to Beit Shemesh. They're from Yerushalayim. They came to Beit Shemesh to meet us, but they came at a time that I wasn't available. I was sitting with clients that it just wasn't shaykh. Finally, at some point, we reached the point where like this is not, like a decision has to be made. This isn't healthy. And my wife calls up Chani and she tells us, like, listen, like, actually there's another woman who's involved also. My wife called up, like, listen, like something has to happen here. Like it's not healthy for a decision not to be made. And this woman called the parents and said, like, yes, man. So I can tell you the day Yom Kippur was on a Wednesday. How do I know? Because the next day was a Thursday, and they wanted to come out on Thursday evening to meet us. The thing is that Thursday night is basketball night.
Day after Yom Kippur is my birthday.
Okay. So I can tell you that year, once Yom Kippur was a Thursday, and they wanted to come to meet us, and they wanted to come at like 9:30. I said, listen, they can come at 8, or they can come after 11. But I play basketball from 9 to 11. It's Rabbi Eliav. I can't give that up even for this. There's nothing to talk about. So we agreed that they're going to come into our house at around 11:15 that night after. So basketball didn't go overtime that week. We ended the mamish on time. I got myself over to, got home quickly, took a shower. Happens to be that her biological parents are Hasidish, so okay, we said 11:15, it was like 11:20, we said, not so bad. And they came and we sat down and we got to know them a little bit. I guess this is chapter 6. Chapter 7, these are amazing human beings, her parents. They're mamish cautious people, her father's a big time chacham, very, very special. They had their reasons why, for them, it was explained to them that the best thing for them might not be for them to raise this child. A lot of people have a lot of judgment around that. I personally don't. I didn't at the time, and I certainly don't now. As we've gotten to know them, we have a relationship with them. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But we sat with them for a little bit over an hour, and at one point, in fact, he asked me, Rabbi Eliav, why would you do this? Like, why would your kids be okay with this? So I said, listen, 3 of my kids are in the kitchen pretending not to listen to our conversation. You can ask them if you want. I said, but I think that my children know that these special neshamas, they bring bracha and simcha to everyone that they meet. I think my children, they recognize that, and I think that's why they'd be willing for us to do this, even though, maybe they'll get a little bit less attention or whatever it might be. And it was a beautiful, beautiful conversation, and they said, okay, they have to go home, they need to think about it. They left our house at a little bit after 12:30 at night. 12 hours later, he showed up at our door. I spoke with him in the morning. 12 hours later, a little bit after 12:30 in the afternoon, on an Erev Shabbos, Yud Beis Tishrei, he came to us, and he was so exhausted, whatever, but he came and he brought Blimie, he handed Blimie to me, and he turned around and he left. I'm sure it was a very, very difficult thing for him to do. As he was handing her to me, my wife broke down crying. It was the saddest thing to see a parent giving their child to somebody else. But this is what they thought was the best thing for their child. My wife then takes her from my arms and she says, we are going to give you, we are going to take care of you. You have a home now. And that is how Blimie became a member of our family. Good news, Tishrei. 3.5 years ago. And I can tell you, and only afterwards did it become official, that she was actually, it's an official thing. She's in foster care. The government is involved. There are social workers involved. The Rav told me, when I told him that we had said that we would take her, he seemed very, very pleased, even though he didn't push me at all to do it or not to do it. And then he said, after I told him, I took her to him to meet him. She was a 6-week-old baby at that point. He's a kohen. He gave her birkas kohen, and he gave us brachas, and he said we should make a kiddush. So I guess that's we're having a chat with right? Yeah. So the story's not yet fully over. My wife didn't want to make a kiddush until it was 100% official. All the foster care and everything went through, so we went through all the paperwork, went through all these things. We had to think, of course, like, to be a foster parent, you actually need a license to be a foster parent. We had someone have to come to our house and speak to us and speak to our children and see what it was. It was a whole interview process and whatever. It's kind of ironic because she was already by us, but in order for it to be an official thing. And Baruch Hashem, we got through that whole process, and we made a kiddush, and we didn't necessarily want to make it such a big thing, just like our close friends. More people found out about it. People came, people were very excited. It was something that I think really touched the hearts of a lot of people. But this I will tell you, Blimie has been one of the best things that could possibly happen to our family. It's been such an incredible zechus to have her. We're developing a whole new therapeutic intervention that I call therapy with Down syndrome, that bringing people with Down syndrome to angry teens, and she's been such a bracha for us in so many ways. And she just is light. She is.
I feel light whenever I see her.
She's just Baruch Hashem. It happens to be she's high functioning. It's a lot of work raising a child with special needs. There's no question. We often will say, like she has Down syndrome, like she's retarded. Retarded is not a bad word, essentially. It just means that somebody's development is slow. But she sometimes does ridiculous things because that is very common with people with Down syndrome, and she can be very stubborn at times, as many children can be. She is the most delicious thing. She's one of the best things that ever happened to us, and I think at this point that I can confidently say that every one of my siblings consider her to be their favorite sibling. They love her. They love her. They love her. My son and I were having a conversation a little while ago. He said, we're talking about shidduchim. He said, I said, what would you do if your wife wasn't okay with not everybody's comfortable with people with special needs. He's like, I cannot marry a woman that cannot be 100% fine with bleeding. We're gonna have her for Shabbos. She's my sister. Like, there's nothing to talk about. So this is the story of Blimie.
Wow, Rabbi Freedman, that was an incredible story. Like, it blows my mind away. I'm like inspired beyond words. So thank you for sharing that with everyone. Wow, it's an incredible story.
It's such a, I'll tell you, a lot of people were telling us after we did this, it was making me a little bit uncomfortable. I was like, oh, you guys are so inspiring, you're so amazing. And
it's true, though.
Like, and it took some self-work to be able to, it is pretty amazing. It is pretty awesome. And I realized that part of what was bothering me was just like my own stuff and like, am I really awesome and like that kind of stuff. And I was working through that.
You are awesome, though.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's true, there is awesomeness in me. I will go with that.
You have to validate yourself.
But what I would say is I realized part of what was bothering me was a lot of people, oh, you're so inspiring. I'm like, so basically I'm your feel-good story for the next 10 minutes, and you're very inspired and you do nothing with it. Like that, I think was what was bothering me, and I didn't say it to most people.
So what should somebody take away from this?
I said to a close friend, I saw a close friend, he's like, Eli, if you guys are awesome. I was like, listen, just do me a favor. You don't do what we did. Don't do what we did. What we did was the right thing for us. It was the right thing for our family. This was part of our mission apparently in this world, is to do this, and so we're doing that, and that's the crazy thing that we're doing. But what's the crazy thing that you're doing?
That you could do on your level.
Not the same thing, but that equivalent for you. What's the place where you're like, I'm going to do something that I never... My wife used to be afraid of kids with Down syndrome. Now she loves them more than anything. What's that place where like I could grow? I could step out of my comfort zone. I could do something that I never thought I would do, and not once or twice, but make that part of my life. So that to me is...
That's the takeaway that people...
Shlomo Zalman Auerbach once said, he said, when a person gets inspired, it's like a spark. If there's no kindle, if there's nothing that catches fire, then nothing comes out of it. So great, you had an inspiration and it goes nowhere. So Shlomo Zalman used to say, you get inspired, make a Kabbalah. The smallest Kabbalah possible. Like nothing. There's something tiny, something you could do. But make a Kabbalah. So that's what I would say. Find that space where you could stretch a little bit. Find that space where you could do a little more. Find that space where you're like, that would be
comfort zone.
That would be crazy. Yeah. But not so crazy that I couldn't do it. If there's a single person in the entire universe who does that because of me making these videos, then I would say it was worth it for me to take Blimie just for that.
Wow. Rabbi Freedman, thank you so much for taking me. And everyone, have a beautiful Yom Tov.